All right, now we're going to be going over parts of the neuron. I like to break it up into 4 parts. We got the cell body, dendrites, axons, and the synapse. So to start, the cell body, like a lot of other cells, has this stuff called perikaryon, which is really similar to like a cytoplasm of the cell. And then also it has specific functions coming from the rough ER and ribosomes, and you need to know that in neurons, rough ER and ribosomes make neurotransmitters. So that's just something special to neurons that we need to know. Okay. Also, there is this stuff in the cytoskeleton called neurofilaments and neurotubules. This is just pretty much what makes up the soma and gives it its structure. So this is found in this soma. And the neurofibrils are really like bundles of neurofilaments that are found in dendrites and axons. Dendrites and axons. And those are bundles of neurofilaments. Yeah. And then also we need to know about Nissl bodies. Those are just dense areas of the rough ER and ribosomes, and it's what makes neural tissue appear gray color. So this is dense regions of rough ER and ribosomes. Okay, so next up we have dendrites. Dendrites are like the receiving part of the neuron on the presynaptic cell. So they're highly branched, and each of the branches have these things called dendritic spines. And so dendritic spines really, they're kind of like cilia or villi in like a cell or in your digestive tract, and it pretty much is just to increase surface area. So they're really there to increase surface area, and that's the part that receives info from other neurons. Okay, then we have the axon. So this is like the long part coming off of the cell body that you're probably familiar with. It's the long process that carries electrical signals or action potentials to the target. So it carries. It's a stupid looking C. It carries electrical signals. And so similar in the cell body, how we had the stuff called the perikaryon, there's this stuff called axoplasm, which is basically just cytoplasm of the axon. And in here, you can find similar stuff like neurofibrils, neurotubules, enzymes, and organelles. And then there's also an axolemma. And if you've already had the muscle unit, you're probably familiar with the stuff called the sarcolemma, which is like the membrane of the muscle cells. So axolemma is just the membrane of the axon. And the axon hillock is really important, and we'll go over that later in the action potential unit. But really, it's a thick section of the cell body that's right before the axon. And so it attaches to the initial segment of the soma. Okay, and then next we have this stuff called collaterals, which are really just branches of a signal axon. And then telendria are the fine extensions of the distal axon. So those are like the tips of the axon that can connect to the postsynaptic cell. And then axon terminals also can be called synaptic terminals, but these are the tips of the telandria. And here you can find mitochondrion, portions of endoplasmic reticulum, vesicles with neurotransmitters. That's really important. And really the axon terminals are there to release neurotransmitters. Yep, so I'm going to scroll down here, and we got a picture right here. And here you can see that this area up here are the Nissl bodies. So this is like the dense area of the Ruffyar and free ribosomes. And then this obviously looks like the nucleus, so you can call it the nucleus. And then this right here is a dendrite. And something I was talking about earlier, we're going to call this cell the presynaptic cell. Okay, and then over here, we have the postsynaptic cell. Okay, and then these little lines inside the cell that look similar to the cytoskeleton, we're going to call those neurofilaments. And then up here are the dendritic spines, or the dendritic branches, like I said. And then this area over here, axon hillock, which connects to the initial segment of axon. And then this is going to be an axon. So this right here, this whole section right here is the axon. And it looks like this line is pointing to the edge of the axon, which would be axolemma. And then over here, we have these extensions of the axon, which are called the telandria. And finally, this area right here are these little bumps on the end of the telandria are the axon terminals. And that little section between the axon terminal and the postsynaptic cell is called the synapse. Okay, so finally, we come to the synapse, and this is where neurons communicate. And inside the synapse, there's this little space called the synaptic cleft. And this is a really small gap that separates the postsynaptic membrane from the presynaptic membrane. And it's said to be as small as 0.02 nanometers, which is 50,000 times smaller than 1 millimeter. So pretty small. This is where neurotransmitters are sent and received, and pretty much allows for all the functions in the brain. Yeah, so that pretty much wraps it up for parts of the neurons. Hope you guys enjoyed this video.